So recently, I had the pleasure of bumping into you in San Diego at AXA. How exciting. You were on a panel talking about equity and talk about equity policy. And you just had some powerful words. I was so excited to see you again. I've been tracking you for the last few years just because you're a peer woman leader that I have a lot of respect for. So for our audience, I want to just introduce you a bit. Dr. Roxane Fuentes is a colleague and friend who has served as an elementary teacher, an instructional coach, principal, assistant superintendent, and she's now the first Latina superintendent coming into Berryessa Union School District. And she started 5 years ago. So you have 5 years of staying power.
Yes.
And can't wait to hear more about that. But here's the thing that I just love about you on top of everything else is you were named the 100 most influential women of Silicon Valley by Silicon Valley Business Journal in 2019. And I like that title. I want that.
Yeah,
Why
pretty
not?
cool, right?
Yes, a cool title. So, let's just go back a little bit because I think it's good for the audience to kind of get to know you. You're a first generation college student, my understanding. So tell us how you
Yeah.
got there.
You know, I just have to say, like, of course, gratitude to my mom and dad, for where I am today, because both, my parents were not college graduates. They hadn't had that experience, but they definitely understood the importance of education and the value that that would bring to not only their daughters. I'm the oldest of four girls, but, for our family. And certainly as I've gone through each experience, of getting that first start into college and where I am now with my doctoral degree, it's not just an accomplishment for me. It's it's an accomplishment for my family. It's an opportunity to model that work ethic for my sisters, for my nieces and nephews, and so forth. But my parents, they always emphasize the importance of education, and I tell our families now, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, my dad was a truck driver. I said but they found ways to incorporate our learning experiences every day, simply with my dad at the dinner table would always ask, what'd you learn at school today? Tell me something new, right? And then when report cards came, those report cards were not opened. They sat on the kitchen table until my dad came home and opened them. So there was a little pressure there. That you were going to do your studies and that you were going to do good work, and I have to also give a lot of credit to a fantastic high school counselor that I had, who really guided me through the application process and helped me at that entry point, because you have so many forms and things to sign, and didn't know how to navigate that, but had some good people around me who supported me and my parents on how to do that, and started my entry into college at USC, and did full circle going back to USC for my doctoral degree. And it was a whole new world, but definitely it was one that I appreciated from the very start, just from the value that was set forth by my parents, knowing that that was going to improve my life and improve what I could do for my family and for my community. And I think that concept of service and giving back to community certainly developed through my upbringing and the challenges that I faced, knowing that I wanted to help other students like me also have that same trajectory and be that resource if their parents hadn't had the experience like mine, that I've done it and now I can support them. And my sister right after me, after I had kind of learned the way, she's a Stanford graduate, both undergrad and law school. So, my parents did quite well.
Well, I can hear your pride,
They
right?
did
It's a
quite
family
well.
pride, right? Well, you also have done quite well, right? So just like your dad used to ask you, how was school today as a young
Yes.
person? Now I'm going to ask you, how was school today as superintendent of Berryessa? You know,
Oh, yeah.
what's that experience like?
Oh, it's amazing. And Berryessa is such a wonderful community. I mean, we're in the heart of Silicon Valley, and our district is preschool through grade 8, and we have 7,000 children. And one of the things that I love about Berryessa is our diversity. Growing up, I grew up in Los Angeles, so I was very much in a Latino bubble until I went off to college. But here, our children, of the 7,000 students we serve, there are over 50 languages plus spoken, in our community. And I just think that's such a rich,
That's beautiful.
social experience for our children. Like, they don't even know how fortunate they are, to have friends from all over the world, and to be able to learn about different cultures and to celebrate that. And so that definitely has been a wonderful experience for me, moving up here to San Jose to be a part of that world, and to really help elevate those experiences for our students. And I have a wonderful board, a very stable board that you mentioned. Yes, this is my 6th year here. And, I definitely, in applying for school districts to be superintendent, I looked for continuity. I looked for, community that valued education and learning experiences for children, and for value of stable leadership, and being able to give a superintendent the time to do that critical work to make an impact, in the best interest for children. And I found that, and I count my blessings every day because I've had other experiences that, weren't so lovely and were much more challenging. And, and every district has their challenges. And I just tell people that, you just have to really know yourself, know your values, and know your strengths, because wherever you go, there's going to be issues that need to be addressed. But you want to hope that the issues that the district's facing are your strengths, and that you can contribute towards those issues, and have some positive contribution. And and that's where I feel like in Berryessa I found my match.
Well, I think there's two things, like, of the many things you shared. That one is the stability of leadership, both at the superintendent and board level, that we know is so important to continuity and to be able to do longer term strategic planning that's focused on kids. And then there's the other piece, kind of, that you talked about, this celebration of the world through what kids bring themselves to one another, to the learning environment, to friendships. That I just so highly value, and I know you do as well. That's so beautiful about that community.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the first initiatives I was able to support when I first became superintendent was to be able to launch dual immersion programming in our district. And so, the first program was our dual immersion Mandarin program. And so now this year we have the full cycle finally from kindergarten through 5th grade. And we're in the process of developing our middle school dual immersion Mandarin model. So, really excited to be able to do that. In our district, Asian population is our highest population, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Filipino. And so to really be able to respect each other's heritage languages, and finding avenues for students to learn a language that they find interesting, is a great opportunity here in Berryessa. And it's been a lot of fun to be able to develop those programs for our students.
That's fantastic. Now, you and I cross paths at ALAS. We've both been involved with the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, a national association that's really focused on bringing together leaders who understand that there is work that has to be done to really help support and advance and close the achievement gap and the debt owed to Latino students and Latino-based communities in this nation. And so I would love to hear, what your perspective is about the role of ALAS in your own pathway and your association with that organization.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a significant contributor to where I am. So I had the wonderful opportunity to participate in the Superintendent's Leadership Academy through ALAS. I'm cohort 6.
I know there's a lot of pride in cohorts.
Yes, so very, very proud of that, and still in communication with all of my cohort 6 family. We have a group text and we cheer each other on. We wish each other well on holidays, and and we support everyone's accomplishments. And in our cohort, there are now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. Half of us are active superintendents right now. So very powerful group. And I love having peers across the country to bounce ideas off of. But, I tell everyone, I actually have I've participated in many superintendent academies here in the state of California, national, and by far, ALAS Academy superseded all of my experiences, and there are a few reasons why. And one of them was that opportunity to travel across the country, looking at English learner policy and impact of, marginalized student populations across the country. And, we looked at all different sizes of districts, large districts, small districts. I was assistant superintendent at the time going through that academy. And it really, it let me see how the superintendency changes depending on the size of the district, the politics related in the community. So it helped me start thinking about, that size district to where I wanted to spend my time as a superintendent and what that experience would look like for me. The other thing it also did was it definitely let me see immediately how many places across the country really lacked diversity in leadership, not just in superintendency, but even all the way down to school site principal. We went to communities that had high Latinx populations and not a single Latinx administrator. And that was very eye-opening for me, because prior to coming to Berryessa, my previous 21 years of service was in my home district in Los Angeles. And, I always felt that giving back to my own community was going to be, the best contribution I could make. And it felt good. And I know I've left a legacy there in my home district. And I had special opportunities. I was principal at my own elementary school I went to. Those are very special, special things. But when I traveled with ALAS, I quickly saw I don't have to just be in my own home community to contribute. And there are like so many places that I can go that also could utilize my assistance as, as a district leader. And so that really propelled me when it came time to be superintendent to think more broadly. I didn't leave California, but going from Southern California to Northern California, they're like two different states.
Yes.
And so I appreciate the mobility, because I've learned how to navigate challenges in Southern California and navigate challenges in Northern California, Bay Area specifically, which is very different. And so it really broadened, my leadership skill set. And, I really learned a lot. Now I'm a huge advocate. I tell leaders all the time, if you have the ability to be mobile, do it. I strongly encourage it. It's a win-win. The other piece too is for, ALAS, I really felt that going through SLA, I really felt that not only was I learning about being a superintendent, but I was getting direct coaching on being a superintendent. And that was a key difference, because in other academies, you're learning the theory, you're hearing stories of from different superintendents about, what they've navigated. But with Alas, we were also given the tools, we were given guidance. I remember we were in Atlanta one month, visiting Atlanta public schools, and we also had the opportunity to get some training from Univision, and and how to deal with the media in your district. And we were put in front of cameras and on the spot. So that's invaluable opportunities. And while I was in SLA, I think my third month in, I became interim superintendent in my home district. And my facilitator, who was Dr. Jose Leva at the time, he was my every Friday night phone call for the rest of that year. And he's still a phone call for me whenever,
and for many other leaders across the nation.
Whenever I need him. But boy, was that an incredible blessing to have that opportunity while I was learning how to be interim superintendent. And and just that level of support is amazing, and and so appreciative. So it definitely not only helped me in that right time situation, but also helped me think, like I said, more broadly about what I wanted out of that superintendency, and actually helped me make a very tough decision, which was leaving my home district and coming up to Northern California for that superintendency experience.
But there's nothing more important, we know, right, in the leadership pathway than to have a strong network of confidants, of folks to learn from, to be a coach to others in a very natural network kind of environment. Right. And also the part that you talked about, being open to lead in other places, I think is also important, especially for our leaders of color, to be seen in different environments, different types of districts, different places around the US, because that kind of inclusivity, that kind of representation also messages that we can lead anywhere and everywhere, and we need diversity.
Yes, absolutely. And and I have to say, I didn't know the impact that would have on a community until I did it. And and I tell people, and even thinking about it, my eyes get welled up still, because I am the first Latina superintendent in Berryessa, and my board was very intentional on that selection. And when I came up here, you're driving around schools, you're getting to know your new home. And I went to one school site, and as I pulled up, the custodian comes running out, and he comes looking for me. And, and he tells me, he says, I heard you were coming today. I wanted to come and be the first one to say hello. And he says, I was going to retire in June. And he says, and then I heard we hired our first Latina, and he's Latino. And he was like, I had to stay, and I had to work one more year so I could work with you. I mean, that's incredible.
Yes.
That's incredible. And then, like I said, we have a diverse population, and for Berryessa, we have about 23% of our students are Latino. And so we have a Madres group. And so I'd gone to the Madres group to introduce myself and talk with them. I think that the moms were in tears. Just, I've not done anything in the district yet. I just arrived, but they were just so proud for our Latino community at large that I was in this position. And, and they were in tears letting me know that they had spoken to their children. They had told their children, when I come to the schools, they're to introduce themselves to me, just such pride. And And that is when it really hit me, how important that representation is. And of course, responsibility too. You feel that, that weight on your shoulders, but wow, it was really eye-opening for me, because in Los Angeles, there's lots of Latino leaders, but we're very concentrated in that part of the state. And so across the state of California, that's not necessarily true. And so that was very powerful entry into superintendency for me in terms of being Latina.
And actually related to ALAS is CALSA, right? The California
Right.
ALAS.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is congratulations are due. You are president-elect of CALSA. So I'm excited about watching your leadership continue in that specific role as well, as you continue to lead and think about and work with the leadership in California.
Oh, thank you. I am super excited. I've been a member of CALSA ever since I became a school principal. So I've had a lot of years, and like ALAS, we have strong programming support for all of our aspiring and active administrators. And so I really value the importance of mentorship so that we all can be successful as we go along, our career path. And, and I'm really excited to be a part of the leadership at CALSA now. And, and I'm chairing our next event, which is in January. So looking forward to a great conference to focus on results in January.
Fantastic. So as we wrap up, we just went through the midterm elections, mm-hmm. and I have to ask you this question as an education leader that has tremendous impact and say and influence on education policy. Based on the midterm elections, are you feeling hopeful for this nation in terms of where we're going with ed policy? Do you have worries about where we're headed? How are you feeling?
Well, I think, I have some mixed emotions about it. Certainly, every day I feel blessed living in the state of California. And for a very specific reason, right? We're much more progressive state. We've got strong governor support in equity work. Our state superintendent also has put a lot of effort in providing, a space for equity initiatives across school districts. So we know we have that backing here in the state of California. Doesn't mean we don't have our critics. We certainly do. And I know I'm very fortunate. I'll continue to have a stable board coming into post-November elections. We had 3 seats open, and, our returning board members are coming back. So glad to still have that with 1 new member, but that's not the same for all my colleagues. And, there are some new perspectives coming onto school board leadership, and it's going to be a challenge for some. I think, though, there are some sparks across the nation. I know that there's hope there that, the path, especially coming out of the pandemic and all of the continued inequities that everyone continued to see, but became much more apparent publicly. I think once that's out there, you can't take that away. You can't stop looking at those issues. And if nothing else, it continues to provide the platform for people to say their piece and to push forward with the work that in the best interest of all of our students.
Well, Roxane, I'm really excited that you are leveraging your position to be part of the dialogue, be part of the discussion, be part of kind of the education around the kind of policy agenda that's needed to be highly inclusive and always inclusive, mm-hmm. and always focused on students. So Dr. Roxane Fuentes, so proud of you, very excited to have this time with you, and I wish you continued great success and joy in your work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to be with everyone today. And, I'm always available to lend support and advice to anyone who wants to just give me a call.
Thank you.